Good morning. I hope everyone is well today, and welcome to Juniper Level Botanic Garden for our gardening talk today on fall bulbs. Now, it's almost no gardener that doesn't love bulbs, but we all get focused on the bulbs you plant in fall but bloom in spring. So today we're sort of want to look at some of the lesser known bulbs that flower actually in the fall, late summer and early fall. So instead of dragging you around all through the gardens, because everything is scattered today and you can go see those on your own, I went out this morning and picked some. So we'll start going through some of the things that look really good now. And when I use the term bulbs, let me qualify that. I'm not actually talking about mostly true bulbs. I'm talking more about geophytes, but every time we put the name geophytes, it freaks everybody out and they're like, I don't know what that is. So we call them all bulbs. Geophytes are plants with underground storage organs. Some are true bulbs, some are rhizomes, some are tubers, some are corms. There are all kinds of different things, and it's all different as to does the bulb actually contain part of the stem, blah 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 blah. I'm not going to get into those, but things that look good in flower now. So we've got a bucket. We'll start going through those. I'll begin with a plant we think of in the south is really a late summer, early fall denizen, and that is the hedychiums, the ginger lilies, not to be confused with wild gingers. Ginger lilies are part of the ginger family. You'll see a number of those in bloom today. Hedychium's the typical one that everybody knows in the south is Hedychium coronarium, which is a white. They're known for their fragrance, especially in the evenings. They're just amazingly sweet. Coronarium gets quite large. It'll get easily 6 foot tall. My favorite out of the bunch that I chose to pull for today is Hedychium deceptum. This is a fairly new plant to cultivation. It's only been cultivated for less than 10 years. It stays short, 3 foot tall, blooms for about 3 months for us. It's really quite extraordinary. There's only probably a couple nurseries in America that you can actually get this from. We just happen to be one of them. But really an outstanding plant. Now, some gingers take sun, some gingers take shade. You need to look, if you're buying one from us, and look at which one it is, because there are some that will absolutely fry in the sun. 90% of the ones you see in the trade are sun plants. They're not shade plants. All of them will tolerate a little bit of shade, but you really need to know which one you're getting to get it in the right place. And these are very easy around here. Most of the things that you can buy online are going to be completely winter hardy. There are tropical species, but we're not going to get into those today. Another group that I think is fascinating are the Gladiolus. Now, this is gladiola people don't know. This is Gladiolus murielae. Typically, gladiolas flower in the spring. There are only a few that flower in the fall. As you're walking through today, if you get over in the pseudo garden, you'll see Gladiolus ruby in full flower. That's a beautiful, rich red. Murielae is one you have to really look for. This is an old-fashioned plant. It's been grown for hundreds of years. It doesn't have a lot of flowers. It only usually will have 3 to 5 flowers on it, but quite spectacular. I remember when I used to work at the fair, somebody would always enter these fair week and everybody was like, what is that? I've never seen that. Used to be in a different genus, Acidanthera, but very easy to grow. We have a later blooming gladiolus, which you can't see this early if you like something really late, called Halloweeny, because it opens on Halloween Day every year, and it is orange and yellow. It's the color of candy corn. It's really an amazing plant, and I hope those of you that have that really are enjoying that. Lilies, typically like the Gladiolus, most of them flower in spring. So we're always excited to have one that flowers in late summer and fall. And this is my favorite. This is Lilium formosanum. And formosanum tells you where it's from. It's from the island of Formosa, which had a name change several years ago. It's now called Taiwan. So this grows all over Taiwan. Down in the lowlands, it actually gets about 7 feet tall, which is what it gets here. If you get up into the high mountains, it's a dwarf plant that only gets anywhere from 18 inches to 2 feet. And those genetics actually will hold. We have offered our collections from high elevation Taiwan that stay small. The cool thing about this, it grows, it will flower first year from seed, which I don't know of any other lily that will do. First year it will be 2 feet tall, second year 5 feet, third year 7 feet. And really amazing. The earliest of these start flowering for us around the 1st of August, but here we are in mid-September, they're still in bloom. Really amazing and extraordinarily fragrant. So really, really love the Liliums. Another interesting group are the tuberoses. Now, the old-fashioned tuberose is not reliably winter hardy here. These were grown, a lot of people put them in wedding arrangements because they're just deliciously sweet. Well, the breeders got hold of these. Now, tuberoses are natives, they're North American natives, they're native to Mexico. The common florist tuberose, Polyanthes tuberosa, is native to real southern Mexico, so that has very little winter hardiness here. So the plant breeders in Taiwan said, well, let's cross the sort of homely looking northern Mexico species with better winter hardiness, got good color, with the southern ones. And they came up with a whole series that are now yellows and pinks and really amazing colors. Those are rock hardy here, and that's what this is. So you'll see occasionally we do have these. They generally don't last very long because it takes a while to propagate them, and they're really highly prized. A lot of what well, let's say before we get into the Amaryllis, let's talk about a gesneriad. Now, a lot of people don't think of gesneriads as plants you grow in the garden. Gesneriads are African violet cousins. But yet, when you get into the ones in South America, especially in southern South America, they're incredibly winter hardy. Most of the types are early summer bloomers. That would be Synengia sylovii, Synengia tubiflora. But if you start breeding with things like Synengia eumorpha, you come up with things like this. This is our introduction called Pink Pockets. It is in full bloom in the garden right now. It only gets about 18 inches tall, light shade to maybe a couple hours of sun. An amazing plant, extraordinary drought tolerant. You grow this with cactus. Doesn't look like something that you would grow with cactus, and this sort of freaks people out when they see it in the garden, but Synengias are just truly amazing geophytes, and they will form underground a tuber the size of a giant grapefruit. And that's why they're so amazingly hardy. And again, a lot of the leaves, the more fuzzy the leaves are, generally the more sun it takes. The group that really has the majority of plants for fall bloom are the Amaryllis family, Amaryllidaceae, and that has a lot of different genera. Crinums are certainly one of our favorites, and this is a crinum lily. Pretty amazing plants. Now, crinums bloom through the summer and into fall. Some of the cultivars, some of the species, some of them only bloom in fall, but they are insanely fragrant. And these, again, the new flowers open up at night, so you're looking here at 2 days worth of flowers, and then you've got more buds down in here to come. Crinums, some are quite large. Some crinums will be 7 foot across, and they have bulbs the size of basketballs if they're happy. I mean, these are crinums years ago were very aristocratic plants. Only very wealthy people had them. And then after, 50 to 100 years, those wealthy people moved on, the houses went in disrepair, they became a plant of the common man, because no nursery could make money digging crinums, because it's massive work to dig one of these big bulbs, and then there's no pots you can put it in. And so they became pass-along plants throughout the South. So as you drive through the South, you'll see old cemeteries, you'll see roadsides, you'll see amazing crinum lilies. But you do need the size of space to put these in. These are also full sun plants. There are some dwarf ones, but you generally can't find those on the market. This is one of the smaller ones. This is just a random hybrid of ours out of Crinum variabile, but you see the difference. And this one never gets more than about 2 feet tall, whereas this one will get 5 feet tall. So there's we have currently about 450 different crinums growing here. The diversity is really quite amazing. Now, an interesting thing happened years ago. There was a plant in South Africa called Amaryllis belladonna. Many of you may have seen the pictures in the catalogs. They don't really grow well here. They struggle. We can get them to bloom maybe 1 out of every 5 years. But somebody years ago crossed that with a crinum, and they came up with a plant called an Amarcrinum. You know, sort of combined both names. The interesting thing about Amarcrinums, the big difference is all the flowers hang on one side, whereas crinums, the flowers go all the way around. Amarcrinums, because one of the parents, the Amaryllis belladonna, is a winter bloomer, a fall winter bloomer. So all Amarcrinums do not start blooming until August, September. They have the same delicious fragrance. You can smell when you finish. They're really strong. It's like getting doused when you walk by the perfume counter in a store. But really quite amazing plants, and they rebloom for month and a half. They just bloom and bloom and bloom and bloom, and very, very easy to grow. They will take a little bit of shade because of the Amaryllis belladonna parent, but half-day sun, perfect. We've got some in full sun. Foliage looks a little burned, but the plants do absolutely fantastic. Also in that family, and let me see if I can find on my plants. Let's start with this. These are just finishing. So this is a plant called Lycoris, or surprise lilies. The surprise lily season here starts in mid to late June and runs into October. So it's a very long season. These are known as hurricane lilies deep south because they will be absolutely dormant all summer long, and then all of a sudden you go out one day and they're in bloom with absolutely no foliage. You go, where did that come from? And you sort of forget that you actually planted this. We're at the tail end of the season now. So you'll see a couple still blooming in the garden. There's a real nice clump over here. This is the most common. This is Lycoris radiata. This is probably the last species to bloom for us. So we've got one clone of this that will bloom in another week or two. But really amazing. The color ranges on Lycoris go from whites to yellows to pinks to blues to reds. It's just an amazing, amazing plant. We currently have right at 1,100 different cultivars of Lycoris here on the property. So we got a little, it's what OCD people do. We can't just have one, we have to have all of them. But really quite amazing. These will die down. The foliage will come up in October. And all of a sudden you'll see a little clump, looks like a little clump of liripe at the base. There's a group of these that don't get their foliage until spring. Flower at the same time, and they will sit there all winter long, and the foliage does not come up until February or March. So you got the fall leaf plants, and then you got the spring leaf plants. Now, the first cousin to this is this plant. These are called Nerines, N-E-R-I-N-E. You'll see these in a lot of your catalogs. Typically, Nerines hate us in the south. Lycoris, love heat. Nerines hate heat. So if you go to the Pacific Northwest, same zone as we're in, all they can grow is Nerines. They cannot grow Lycoris because they don't get enough heat. If you go to England, oh my God, they've got hundreds of cultivars of Nerines. There's only really 2 that we found that we can grow here. This is Nerine angustifolia, and this is flowering over in one of the dryland berms. You can see this is just coming into bloom. This will be blooming for almost a month. So it's nice when we find these. We tried to sell them. Nobody will buy them because why would you want that when you can have this, frankly? Just saying. Now, somebody years ago did something very interesting. They took a Nerine and they crossed it with the Amaryllis belladonna, the other parent of the Amarcrinum. And they created these. These are called Amarines, so Amaryllis Nerine hybrids. These also, because they have an Amaryllis belladonna parent, they don't love us here. We don't see flowers every year. We'll probably see flowers every other year. But when they bloom, they're absolutely amazing. So they do need a little bit of real high shade. They can take a couple hours of morning sun, but they really don't like sun. And there's probably a half dozen cultivars of these. You can find them in the Dutch catalogs. It's Amarine. But just realize you're not going to see flowers every year. But when you do, it's a pretty cool thing. Okay, let's look at some. Let's see, these didn't come out particularly well. These are rain lilies. Okay, so you'll see more in bloom in the garden. They close up at night, they reopen during the day. These are also in the Amaryllis family. These flower, they have a flowering period, typically June through September. They flower 2 to 4 days after a rain. So they have nice foliage, look like a little clump of grass, and then all of a sudden, 2 to 4 days after, they pop into bloom. Nobody really knows why they bloom when they do. They don't bloom when you water them out of a hose, but they bloom when it rains. Some people theorize this barometric pressure. Somebody else did an experiment and they found with an impact sprinkler that does this, they never flowered, but by using an oscillating sprinkler, they flower. So they theorize this some way that the water massages the bulbs. It's a fascinating plant. But they will take it bone dry and then all of a sudden they pop into bloom. These are all a range of the genus Zephyranthes. And they look terrible today, but but you can see a range of the colors. They're really quite amazing and extraordinarily easy to grow. They will take it bone dry. Some will actually grow in a bog with pitcher plants. And their first cousin are these. These are the genus Habranthus, Habranthus. Habranthus is basically a Zephyranthes that is angled on the stem. Other than that, they're pretty much the same. Same flowering mode after they rain, same type of blooms. Very easy. This is Habranthus brachyandrus, a really lovely species, and the tallest of all the all the Habranthus. This one will get up to, I've seen them almost 2 feet tall. Really quite stunning. First cousins is this, and this is just finished. Last weekend, if you were here, they were still in full bloom. These are called oxblood lilies. And this is the genus Rhodophiala. This is first cousin to Hippeastrums. Now, Hippeastrums is what everybody calls Amaryllis, because back in the 1940s, it got really confused which plant was actually Amaryllis and which plant was Hippeastrum. And turns out there's only 2 species of Amaryllis, and you can't grow either one of them here. So anything you grow that you think is an Amaryllis is not. It is a Hippeastrum. All right, this is first cousin of Hippeastrums. And Hippeastrums are native really South America. They're wonderful plants. This is a miniature version. This is called Rhodophiala bifida. So this is native Argentina, Uruguay, rock hardy here. Only gets about 15 to 18 inches tall, but when they come into bloom, they are amazing. And they will grow in both full sun and light shade. They would grow fine right here. It's one of the very few bulbs that put on that kind of show that will take a fairly decent amount of shade. Not deep shade, but you will see them scattered all around here. Most of them finished up last week. And then this is, I mentioned Hippeastrum, but Hippeastrums flower in spring. So there's a cousin of Hippeastrums called an Aztec lily, the genus Sprekelia. Sprekelias flower all summer, but when you cross them with Hippeastrums, you get 2 flowers and you get rebloom all summer. So this is a Hippeastrelia. It's a man-made thing. We did the forceps between the Sprekelia and the Hippeastrum. If you get a chance at these, there's probably a half a dozen named cultivars on the market. Really extraordinary. And again, we'll take light shade, we'll take up to half-day sun. And what else do I have here floating around? Okay, this is a very small one. This is also in the same family. This is this is a type of, it's first cousin to a snowdrop. This used to be in the genus Leucojum, but they took it out and they gave it its own genus. This is an Acis, A-C-I-S. You will see it flowering in the garden. There's a patch over there near the greenhouse. There's one patch out in the crevice garden. They're fascinating because they don't come into bloom till mid-September. They only get about 6 inches tall, and it looks like somebody threw white petals on the ground. But fascinating little plants. This is Acis autumnalis. This is a cultivar September snow. We actually may have this in the nursery. We offer this every few years, but just a delightful plant. Certainly not as showy as some of the things, but one I hope people won't forget. And we found it extremely easy to grow. I look online, it says how difficult it is. And we have found this to be one of the easiest geophytes that we grow. And then one plant in a different family. This is in the iris family. We don't have many plants in the iris family blooming now, except for Gladiolus. Gladiolus is in the iris family. At least it is, depending on who you talk to. Some people have now created a whole new family called the Gladiolaceae family, but I'm not convinced of that one yet. This is a plant we collected originally down in Argentina. This is Eonophilus. It's a terrible name. Eonophilus euryandrus means it's got a pile of E's. A really delightful little plant. Flowers for about a month in light shade. Blooms now. Not gonna win for the showiest plant in your garden, but I love any kind of geophyte that will bloom this late in the year, and that's a great one. And then ending up with one final plant, and this is the hardy cyclamen. You will see those all through the garden today. These are amazing. I first started growing these back in the 1960s. A good friend of mine in Cary, the late Rachel Dunham, she had them, they had seeded all through her lawn. Her entire lawn was cyclamen. It was amazing to go there. These start blooming for us usually around August, and they bloom up through December. These are amazing. Then in December, the leaves come out. And the leaves are incredible. The leaves look like a wild ginger, beautifully patterned with silver. You'll see these, what these like and must have in the garden is dry, dry, dry. They do not like rain. Where we saw them in the wild is in the driest spots imaginable. And where they grow in the wild, they only get 6 to 8 inches of rain a year. We get 46 here. So dry. Put them at the base of a tree. You'll see a lot of them over here. Every tree we have, big tree, where nothing else will grow, that's where you want to plant your cyclamen. In the crevice, we just tuck them in under a rock where they won't see any moisture. They're just incredible plants. They come in ranges from sort of a pink to a mauve to a white and everything in between. The best one you want is Cyclamen hederifolium, and that has a bunch of name cultivars based a little bit on flower coal, but more on the leaves. Some leaves are solid silver, some are silver patterned, but again, the key on that is dry. It will actually take some sun, but it's normally in the wild a shade plant. And I think I've gone through my bucket. I'll stop. Do we have any questions?
What was the name of that again?
Cyclamen hederifolium. Now, what does hederifolium mean? Latin is actually, I used to think Latin was complicated, but it's not. You just got to understand the parts. You got to break every word into little pieces. So hederifolium means foliage that looks like an hedera. Well, what is a hedera? That's an English ivy. So it's got foliage that looks like an English ivy. So we can call it the ivy-leafed cyclamen. Pretty easy. Any other questions?
I have a question about the cyclamen too.
Yes.
I have it planted at my house near a big tree. And
yes.
You're right, dry. But this year I noticed that instead of, usually I don't see the bulbs.
Yeah.
But this one has a bulb, just a big thing like this, and it's kind of sitting on top of the ground.
Yeah, that's what they do. They will bring themselves up to the ground. Some species like to grow slightly below, but most of them like to grow right at ground level. And when they get large, and they can get this big, they can get the size of a dinner plate, they push themselves up because that's where they want to be.
Well, I haven't touched it.
Nope.
It's blooming now.
Yeah.
But I was concerned that it was
Yeah.
on top of the ground
Yeah.
instead of a little bit under.
Yeah, no, that would cause concern, but it's fine. The plant did it on its own, and that's the way you see them in the wild, many of the species. Like I say, there are some species, other ones that like to be below ground, but Heterofolium, it can go slightly below, but it just pushes itself, and they're very hardy. Most cyclamen would be hardy outside in Chicago. So our little winter temperature is not an issue. Great question. Another one over here. Yes.
Do you sell Crinum bulbs? Crinum lilies?
We currently don't, because so here's the problem with crinums. Here's the dirty little secret. Every crinum is full of virus. Every crinum grown and sold in America is full of virus. The problem is, and it doesn't affect the growth, if you look at the leaves really close, if you're sort of one of these anal OCD gardeners, yes, it will freak you out, but they all have it. So we just said, let's just stop for a little bit and let's figure out what we can do. The only way to clean the viruses up is in a lab, is something called tissue culture. You can clean them up. The problem is nobody buys enough crinums to make it worthwhile to put them in the lab. If a commercial lab, you'd have to want at least 10,000 of a plant for them to even talk to you. Okay, crinums, we might be, on a good day, we might sell 50 to 100 of a crinum. It ain't gonna work. That's why we had originally built our own lab to try to clean them up ourselves, but when we had to close that due to the economy, that didn't work. So right now, we're not offering any. We will figure something out. The problem is people freak out when they hear the word virus. Oh my God, if somebody gets one and they have a spot on the leaf, oh my God, you sent me a virus plant. Well, yes. If you tested every plant in your garden, I'd say 70% of everything, not just crinums, every plant has got viruses in it. You have viruses all in your body. All of us have viruses. So it's what virus do you have and what is the viral load? It's not that you can't just say, everybody likes black and white, virus good, virus bad. It ain't that simple. And so we struggle to educate people, and we got so many people that go through a basic training, like a master gardener training, and they think they know everything. And they call us and they say, oh, you should never sell a plant with a virus. Well, that's just not realistic. There's no nursery in the world that sells a plant. If you put it in the lab and you cleaned it up and you put it outside, within a week, it's going to have a virus in it. So the problem is we're dealing with uneducated customers who don't want to be educated. And our customer service people just got tired of dealing with ignorance.
I'm glad I asked.
I'm glad you asked.
I learned a lot.
It's a great question. There are people still selling crinums. They're all virus, but that's fine.
And the one that I have is just like you say, where a friend got the plant from her mother.
Yeah.
And shared it with siblings and all of that.
So when we dig up crinums in our field trial where we have all the varieties, what we have to do is we dig up a bulb. Let's just say we can get a small bulb like this big. That's not going to fit in a pot. So what we have to do is take that crinum and clean the bulb off, and we have to take a knife and slice the root. The bulb, all the way to the base of the bulb. When we slice it about 4 times, and that's called crown cutting. And there's bulb chipping's another name. And then a year later, you will have little bulbs pop off there, and then we pot those up in pots. Then it takes another year to 2 years to grow them up where we actually have something big enough to sell. So by the time we dig, it's a 2 to 3 year process. So there's not a good economical way to dig crinums. There are a couple growers that go out in the field and dig them. They lose money on every one they sell. There's no way you can pay somebody to go out there and dig a crinum bulb and sell it mail order. There's no way. You're not valuing your time. It just is not realistic. And fortunately, we have people that are not great business people that do that. eBay is a great source. There's a gentleman down in Florida, a good friend of ours, Nestor White. He has probably the second largest crinum collection in America. He may have a large one. He collects every named Crinum there is, and it's called bulbs by Nestor. So if you want right now some interesting Crinums, go on eBay and look for some of his. You can get some really amazing stuff. Great questions. Yeah, other questions? Yes.
I've got Crinum, and they're viral virus, and they're doing fine.
Yeah.
Do I have to worry about that going to other plants, the virus?
Yes, the virus are spread. Now, it's generally spread to other plants in the same family. Yes, and it's spread by sucking insects, most of which you're probably never going to see. So, yeah, you do. But that, again, they probably already got a virus anyway. So again, if we try to have a garden that's virus-free, there is no garden. It's just not realistic.
I just thought if it went to another plant, it may be a little more devastating.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to bother my Crinums. They've got it, but
yeah, we have not seen it be a problem on other Amaryllids. I mean, the spider lilies, they get it. We've never tested Lycoris, but almost guaranteed they would have it. It's a reality of life. And again, it's dealing with people who are black and white, good, bad. Everything is either good or bad. There is no gray. In the real world, everything is gray. There is no black and white. So it's all about the viral load. How much virus does it have? Cannas are another plant. Every canna sold in America, unless it was grown from seed in a controlled greenhouse, every canna is full of virus. Now, it gets to the point, we got some that were so butt ugly, we tested them, they had 4 different viruses in them. All right, toss those suckers out. But realistically, if it doesn't affect the appearance of the plant, if it grows fine, if it doesn't affect the vigor, that's where we draw the line. But again, this idea that you're going to have a clean garden in nature, it's just not the way it works. Great questions. Yeah. Yes.
Did you tell us when we plant these bulbs? Is it spring or fall?
What time of year do you plant them? It does not matter. You can plant them 12 months out of the year. That's the beauty of bulbs. The reason we got in this idea of you plant spring bulbs in fall, because that's when the Dutch send them over to America. But you can plant absolutely any time. We've got into this mindset, and that's the way people used to say, well, we have to do this time of year. We have to fertilize this time of year. We have to plant this time of year. No, that's just when the bulbs get sent over here in big crates. Because most bulbs are produced in Holland, because they got great growing conditions, they got really great soil, they got moats that give water that can be uptaken. I mean, that's where the bulbs come from. Very few bulbs are produced here in the U.S., if any, but that's when you can get them. And in terms of the same thing, in terms of fertilizers, we got these rules. Why? Because back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, all fertilizers were chemical based. And if you put those out in the wrong time of year, you fried your plants. Fast forward to here we are today in the 2000s, more people have gone to organic fertilizers. It doesn't matter when you put those out. Not relevant to the plant because you're feeding the microbes and not the plants. So a lot of these old rules that those of us with gray hair grew up with really don't pertain anymore because everything else has changed. Great question. But we plant every day of the year. There is not a day that we do not plant in this garden. And that includes these. The only exception would be if you had something that was marginal in this zone and needed to get established before winter. That would be the only exception. And a good example for us, we tell people do not plant agaves this late because they hate winter wet. And they will not get large enough if you plant them now to shed the water in the wintertime. But if it's a geophyte and it's going to be under the ground, no issues. Great questions. Any more?
I have the Hill Country Red.
Yes.
That has I've had it a long time,
Yeah.
but
yeah.
I've divided it a few times and
Yeah.
shared it.
Yeah.
It's very similar to the one you have there.
This was Hill Country Red, yes.
Oh, okay.
Right here, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a beautiful plant,
Oh,
and
it's-
it's very, very strong.
Yeah.
I thought I killed it one year, but I didn't.
No, it's fantastic. This was brought to the U.S. back in the 1800s by a gardener in the Texas Hill Country. And he began spreading it all around, and it's been there for 150 years. Yeah, and if it grows in Texas, it will grow anywhere. That is some brutal gardening climate down there. They close up at night, they open back in the day. And man, if you'd have seen these clumps a week ago, holy cow.
Some of mine are still, I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
they're amazing. And this
You
comes,
sell those?
we do, yes, absolutely, yeah. When this comes in pinks, it comes in, we've now got a white, but we only have a couple of those. But right now it's mainly reds, shades of red. There's actually a one we call, I think Scarlet O'Hara. It's a scarlet, it's almost an orange red, which is really nice. But yeah, this is just a can't miss plant.
Is that drought tolerant?
Insanely drought tolerant. Have you ever been to Texas?
Only through the airports.
It's insanely drought tolerant. Oh my goodness gracious. Yeah, it just, because up until mid-August, you will have nothing. You will have just ground, there's nothing there. And then all of a sudden you go out one day and there it is in bloom.
And does it require a certain kind of soil mixture?
Well, we've grown it in sand, we've grown it in clay, we've grown it in gravel. Haven't found anything so far that it won't grow in. I haven't tried growing it in a bog with pitcher plants. That would actually be worth a try, but I have not tried that. But anything other than that, yeah.
Sun or shade?
Both. Not deep shade, but a light like where we are today. Oh, this is ideal for it.
And does it spread easily itself?
No, it does not spread. It just offsets. So after about 5 years, you can dig it up and you've got probably 50 bulbs in that clump.
So you have to wait 5 years, you think, before it's worth? Well, you know, after
Well, I mean-
1 year, it's not going to be enough to divide.
No, you might could get one bulb off after a year, but no, it's best to leave it, because where it really makes a show is 5 to 7 years. That's when it'll have, we had one clump this year, probably had 150 flowers on a clump. I mean, it's extraordinary. And if you're dividing it every year, you're only going to have 10 flowers on a clump. So depending on what you want.
Now, do you sell the bulbs of the plants?
We sell the plants in pots.
Okay.
So there might be one bulb, there might be 3, there might be 5. Yeah. We're not a dry bulb dealer. We don't buy bulbs in and stick them. We actually grow the plants in containers. So yeah, there's no telling what you'll find in that pot.
Where can we see these out in the, what garden?
They are scattered everywhere. They're not, there's not one place. You'll just have to look at what you see and walk around till you see one. That's why I gathered them today. We'd have been walking for hours trying to find everything. Yeah. Any other questions? Thank you all very much. Hope you enjoy your walk around today. Yeah.